Promise, here's the spokesman for the Richmond Police Department, Lieutenant Felix. I know this happened about 6 hours ago. Your officers just left the scene. What do we know about the search for the suspect, sir?
Well, let me just explain what happened in totality here. At about 10 minutes after 1 o'clock this morning, our officers responded to the 6100 block of Sutter Avenue on a report of a burglary in progress, an auto burglary in progress. The person reporting gave a description of the suspect, and the first officer arrived on scene, and once the officer exited his patrol car, the suspect fled immediately. So the first officer chased after the suspect on foot. The suspect ran westbound on Sutter Avenue and then turned northbound on Carlson Boulevard. When the suspect reached Carlson Boulevard, the first officer kind of lost sight of the suspect. But at the same time, the officer was broadcasting on the radio the direction of flight of the suspect. The second officer at that time was arriving on Carlson Boulevard. The officer heard the radio transmission and stopped his vehicle on Carlson Boulevard in hopes to get a hold of the suspect. Well, the second officer couldn't see the suspect and parked his car on Carlson Boulevard and came out on foot in search for the suspect. It was during his search that he saw a silver-colored four-door Mercedes coming at him at a high rate of speed without the lights on. And the second officer, felt that he was going to get ran over and possibly killed, and decided to discharge his firearm at the suspect vehicle. And at the same time, the officer ducked out of the path of the vehicle. The suspect vehicle continued and fled the scene. Now, at this time, we don't know whether or not the suspect was struck or if the suspect vehicle was struck. We have contacted and notified all local hospitals for anybody that may come in for any type of injuries that would be consistent with gunshot wound.
So this was not a home burglary, it was an auto burglary?
Correct. It was an auto burglary, and the victim vehicle on the auto burglary had windows smashed out already. And there's a possibility that the suspect did gain some items from the vehicle.
Any description of the suspect?
The only description we have of the suspect is he's a black male, between 20 and 30 years old, wearing a black hooded sweatshirt. And the vehicle is a silver-colored, early 2000s four-door Mercedes. So if anybody comes into contact or sees a silver Mercedes four-door in the early 2000s with bullet holes, we encourage the public to call 911 or call us.
So where do we stand with this right now? What's the next step?
Well, the investigation is ongoing. The officers have to get interviewed. And from that interview, whatever we glean from that interview will further the investigation.
So, here's my question. The Mercedes, where does that come in? Was this his vehicle there? Did he gain access to a vehicle that wasn't his?
That is something that needs to be determined through the investigation, but we have no clue. We don't know yet. We don't have information to state whether or not that was the suspect vehicle or he broke into another vehicle and took possession of that and took off.
Or there was an accomplice, maybe?
We just don't know right now. It's still really early in the stages of the investigation.
Unusual, is it not?
It's quite unusual. It's quite unusual the fact that the suspect was so bold to try to run over the officer. Usually suspects would try to just get away, they'll hide. But in this case, it's obvious that the suspect was determined to A, run away, and B, hurt the officer. So it is a very bold move on the suspect's part.
Now, this is speculation, but do we know that the officer was clearly marked? What if he was just trying to get away and thought it was a bystander?
Well, the officer was in full uniform, and he was driving a fully marked black and white Richmond police car. And I think you can surmise that that is a police officer, especially when you've already ran away from a police officer. So I don't think there's any I don't think there's any confusion there.